Welcome, Dave.
Howdy, howdy, howdy.
We got another episode of Duluth Conservative, and we're going to come at you with a lot of good stuff tonight. So I'm going to give you a little rundown so you can see what's going to be on the show. We're going to talk about the No Kings protest. We're going to talk about reconstruction at the White House, some Duluth news. We're going to talk about the data center, the Lester Park Golf Course again. We're going to talk about tenants' rights to repair. In Minnesota news, we got some stuff about the Aquatennial, 6th grade social studies curriculum, transgender athletes in Minnesota and a Supreme Court ruling. In national news, we'll talk about banning VPNs, Democrats wanting to end, or DeSantis wanting to end the Florida property taxes. And then in international news, the UN carbon tax that was stopped. Britain finally makes a good decision about not going after people for non-crime hate incidents. And we'll talk about COVID-19 in the recap. So that's just a brief summary of what we're going to be doing. We'll cover more topics in more depth. And welcome, and hopefully you stay for the entire show. Shall we get going, Dave?
Yeah, there's a lot to cover tonight. So
yeah. Well, let's start with, I wanted to put this at the top, the TDS madness. TDS is Trump derangement syndrome, and it seems to be really spread out across a lot of Democrats and liberals. And the reason I wanted to bring that up is because of the No Kings rally. That's what they called it. It's an interesting thing. So first of all, and I didn't want to belabor this, and we didn't want to talk about this too much, Dave, but I do want to talk about some things about it. And then you can give your assessment as well. But the one thing I noticed was the scheduling. Did you notice that a lot of these protests, and if you take a look at Duluth and Cloquet, which are very close to each other, the Duluth protests were set at 11:30 to 12:30. And then the Cloquet protests were 1:30 to 2:30. And if you go down to cities, you had the St. Paul protests going at noon, Minneapolis at 1, Long Prairie at 2. It's as if they're scheduling these things to make sure that the paid people, the protesters that are getting paid to go to these things, are able to go to several of these to boost up the numbers. Now, that's my assessment of it. What do you think?
Yeah, I noticed that on the online across, in Chicago and in New York, they were also trying to figure out why the protest ended so quickly and the area cleared out so quickly. So, boom, it's 1:00 and everybody's gone.
I've seen this before when they were protesting Tesla.
Yep.
At 1:00, everybody just stopped and went home. I wonder if it's because that's when they're getting paid till, and after that, they're not getting paid anymore.
Well, I think you're right on the money on this one, that they're just moving places. Mm-hmm. Because the organizers themselves say that there was 7 million people, but you talk to the press and bystanders, and they said, well, it's closer to 600,000 if you count, separate all these groups out. So I can easily see them moving the people so that it seems like there's more people, that actually somebody cares.
And that's funny. And also it's funny because they make it sound they want it to feel like a grassroots campaign. Like this is something that the people are coming up for. And this is really starting from scratch. $294 million financed this protest. $294 million. Some of the people that contributed, Arabella Advisors, $79 million. Warren Buffett, $16 million. The Ford Foundation, $51 million. Rockefeller, $26 million. Soros, $72 million. Tides Network, and that's in San Francisco, $45 million. And what Dave has popped up here on the sheet is, and we'll have a link to it, you can see the actual breakdown of how across the top in the columns are these 6 or 7 companies that we listed. And then the subsidiaries of them are down below. This is how they funnel their money out. So they take that big chunk, they funnel it to a bunch of different places, and then they push the money in. If it sounds like money laundering to you, it seems like that's what it is. They don't want to make it seem like they're funding it, but they are. It's 6, 7 people or organizations funding it. $294 million. If you assume they had 7 million protesters, which I don't think they did, that comes out to about $42 a person to get a person there to protest for an hour.
Right.
What a sham. So contrast that to the Trump rallies. People be lining up the night before to be able to get a spot to go to see a Trump rally, and nobody was getting paid for that. Yeah. That there was another one. You're showing an article here where they showed a image, and it was from, I think it was from 2020, I believe.
Right. Is from one of the Trump rallies.
Oh, really? That's even
Yeah.
better. The other thing is, you can't really trust images like this at all anymore. What if it's an AI image? You know how easy it is to do an AI image of hundreds of thousands of people at a location? We could do it here. It's lining the streets. It's nothing. Would they actually tell you? I don't know.
Well, that's why they had to put the AI thing on Trump's jet pilot video, because otherwise people would believe that it actually happened.
So President Trump got into a jet airplane and dropped poop on that kid.
Yeah.
That's totally, you got to put an AI label on that. Nobody would know. I mean, we just don't know if that's true or not. Did he actually do that?
Yeah, right, exactly.
I don't think a label at that point helps you if you can't understand that.
No.
Interesting thing too is they talked about, I think I've lost some of my stuff that I had on here.
I did. Yeah, I was just thinking something changed.
Something got deleted, but it's because I talk about, when you talk about No Kings Rally, you talk about the people that are saying this. Nancy Pelosi and Bernie Sanders have been pretty vocal about that. They've been in office for, Bernie Sanders has been in office for 32 years?
Yeah, something like
that.
I've
lost a lot of information in my sheet I had. Nancy Pelosi has been in office, 38 years.
38
Maxine Waters, 34 years. It's funny because if you look at it, the top two people that have been in office longest are Republicans at 44 years. After that, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14, 17, and 20. So out of the top 20, I listed the numbers. Those are all Democrats. Everybody in the top 20 has been in office more than 27 years. And they're complaining about Trump, who's been in office 4 years, 9 months total in his life.
Yeah, and they're blaming him for everything, even though he was wasn't ever in politics.
Right. I had written down in here, the funny thing is too, there's this thing they came out with on Sunday, and they're like, wow, there was no reaction. There was no counter protests. Nobody was out there, arguing this thing. So MAGA must be actually not real. It's just a bunch of bots, and it's not a real, and there's no supporters of it. But you've got to understand, first of all, that was probably our last beautiful day in October here in Duluth.
Right.
It was nice out that day. So I'm not going to be wasting my time going and screaming at people that won't listen. The second thing is, nobody pays us to protest. So if we're going to go there, it's out of our own pocket. It's got to rise to the occasion of meaning something to us. This doesn't. I don't want to be around you, to be honest. I don't want to be around people in that agitated state, because they're not listening. They're purely emoting at that point.
Right. They're not doing anything,
And they won't listen either. They're not in a listening state anymore. They're completely, you could say anything to them and they wouldn't listen to you. They'd just be angry about it. So it doesn't do much good to counter protest that stuff.
So, it's not a conversation place.
No. And finally, what are we supposed to counter protest? Do you think we're for a king? I mean, I'm kind of glad we don't have a king. We just have a really, really good president. So we don't want a king either. We don't want some, somebody to even run that hasn't been into the primary process and just gets anointed by your party to be the next president. We don't want people in office for 40 some years. It's
right.
We don't have anything to protest. We actually support the notion of no kings, but we celebrated it on July 4th. We don't need to do it in October.
Yeah, all this was a senior citizens arts and crafts project. Is if
It
you really
really
want to
was,
boil
wasn't
it
it?
down to. Yeah, because I didn't see any young people there. It was just old white people, old white females. And this is their social group, and this is what they do for entertainment.
It's kind of fun to go, just feel like the young buck around there, right?
Right.
Yeah, look,
yeah.
I'm pretty young.
Just to bring the average down. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So I think we talked enough about the no kings nonsense. I think it was a fizzle. I don't think it was as impactful as they thought it was. So, or they're trying to promote it as, and then just like most of their propaganda, they just keep saying it until people believe it. But I don't think it really mattered at all.
No.
I mean, maybe it did. We don't have a king, in the United States.
Yeah, they were successful because we didn't have a king prior and we don't have a king now. So I guess it was successful.
Good job. The only king we ever had in the United States was King Kamehameha. When Hawaii was, one of our territories, no longer have one. It's the only state in the Union that has a royal palace. It's Hawaii.
Well, we can't forget about Elvis. I mean, he was considered the king.
Oh, the king of rock and roll, yeah.
Yeah.
And there's Larry King. My God.
Yeah. We're gonna throw him out. Bring him to Rosie O'Donnell's house.
Oh God! Oh, just because you mentioned Rosie O'Donnell, and I don't think I have it on the list here. They've revoked her passport, I believe. Now that she's in Ireland, she can't come back.
Perfect.
Maybe she should just get involved in Ireland politics, and now that she's out of the United States, she's not a U.S. Doesn't want to be a U.S. citizen. She wants Ireland citizenship. Maybe she just stop talking to the U.S. press and just stick local.
Yeah. Yeah, I also seen that UK has got a surge of Americans looking for citizenship. Just because of Donald Trump, yeah. Because he's a king. I don't know if that.
Yeah. Do you have to go through the king to get into the country?
Yeah.
You realize he's the one that issues the passports. The king of England does not have a passport because he's the one who issues it. So that was a funny thing because they were trying to do these similar protests throughout like Canada and everything, but they had a no tyrants one because they couldn't say no kings. They have a king. White House renovations. So this is interesting. So just some background. The east wing of the White House, there's a carport that's being demolished and some of the siding is being demolished, and they're going to be building this, and there's a nice picture of it. It's getting blown up. They're tearing it down because they're going to put this massive ballroom on the east wing. So a couple things to say about this. When you're doing construction, you have to destroy things sometimes to do new construction.
Yep.
Secondly, this isn't unprecedented. Several presidents have added on. Nixon added a bowling alley. Obama added a basketball court. I don't think they paid for them privately because that's the other point. Trump is paying for this himself or with donors. I think it's mostly himself. So it doesn't cost the American taxpayers anything. They're going to have this beautiful ballroom at the end of it that people are going to be able to use for as ever long as the White House is valid as their capital or presidential palace. So I think I don't see what the big deal is. And Klobuchar had something to say about it. She said, I don't have it up here. You had it listed. But she was talking about how it was bad because she said, no time to bring down healthcare premiums when you're tearing down walls, windows, and drapes. Sconces over cancer screenings. White House begins demolishing East Wing facade to build Trump's ballroom. So I have a feeling Amy may think that Donald Trump is sitting in that machine right there, tearing it down. He's, I can't do presidential duties today. I have to do construction work. So, yeah. Amy is not the brightest bulb, as far as I can tell. Other
well,
people have been protesting it too. They're asking where the money's coming from. He's paying for it.
Yeah,
Why
like you
isn't
said, Amy can't chew gum and walk down the hall at the same time. The president can, but she can't.
Trump can?
Yeah.
Bernie Sanders had something to say. We got that video. So Bernie Sanders was talking about the government shutdown.
Where we are today on the 18th day of a government shutdown, which is depriving millions of federal employees of the paychecks they desperately need and deserve.
Bernie has voted now, I believe, 11 times against opening the government again. So I don't know what he's talking about here. He has voted against it 11 times. You're telling us what the bad thing is, and then you go and do it yourself. So because the Republicans are holding out saying, we will not fund illegal aliens having health care, the Democrats desperately want that. And that's what this fight is about.
Yeah. At what point then are we supposed to provide health care for the whole world and pay for it?
Right.
I mean, it just doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
That's been the whole thing. I mean, that's even with the Minnesota stuff too. You can't help everybody. You can't solve the problem for everybody. The people that try to do that in their personal lives end up exhausted, broke, and broken. We as a country can't do it either. If we want to do a reasonable job for our citizens, the people who work in this country and pay for this country, we've got to stop trying to give our money out to just about any other country there is. This is not communism. We are a representative republic. We are individual achievement people, not a communist government. And if you want to live in a communist government, there are places you can go, and you should go to it too.
Right. Yeah, there's nothing. We don't have any kings holding you back, so just find the country you like and head off to it. So
I guess that was the other point about the no kings thing too. It's if he was a king and you organize these rallies, what do you think a king would do? He'd eliminate all of you that went to that rally.
Yeah.
Kind of easy to tell where you're not being subjugated under a fascist government or king, because you're able to do things that you're doing, and then there's no ramifications for it.
Yeah, to me, I hate to bring Ukraine into this thing, but Ukraine, as soon as they got into the war with Russia, he got rid of all the other political parties and got rid of anyone that would talk badly about the President Zelensky. It's like,
yep,
that's a fascist. There's your authoritarian right there. There's your.
He's absolutely a fascist. He seems to be cleaning out that country for somebody else. He's killing all the young people that live there with no plan and no guidance, but he just seems to want to do that to, I think it's to import another group of people. I don't know who that is, but it'll be interesting to see what happens after this war is over, if Russia goes back to its previous lines.
Yeah, but you see all the No Kings protesters with Ukrainian flags and, Ukrainian flags on their Facebook posts. And it's like, well, do you actually understand what's happening over there?
Right.
You're for no kings, but he's doing exactly the opposite of what you're protesting. So what, make up your mind. Is it right or is it wrong?
But you don't understand. No kings, but dictators. A-okay.
Yeah, dictators are okay.
One of the top Democrats said Americans need to suffer so Democrats can have political leverage. Can you pop that story up? So this is the Democratic whip of the U.S. House of Representatives, Kathleen Clark. And she says, shutdowns are terrible. Of course there will be families that are going to suffer. We take that responsibility very seriously, but it's one of the few leverage items we have. Isn't that crazy? So they're A-okay with it. The people living check to check now are going to start really suffering coming up at the end of the month here. Now they're going to be gone a whole month without a paycheck. There's a lot of people that can't handle that. And as far as I understand, Speaker Johnson said, all you have to do is go and vote to approve the same budget that you voted for 4 months ago. That's it.
Right.
But they refused to do this. And they were holding out after the No Kings protest because they thought they'd get some sort of steam from it. I don't think they did, but they want to keep acting as if they did. So they now have to pretend that they got the steam out of it so that they can just keep going forward and complain about it.
Yeah, it's completely ridiculous, you know. And here's another. We're back to we need to get rid of the politicians.
You definitely need term limits.
Yeah, there's term limits because they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, basically. So,
I mean, geez, Bernie Sanders has been in office since my first child was born.
Right.
Pelosi's been in the office since I was 20.
Yeah.
I was in college when she was elected. My God. And then they have the nerve to complain about things not being good. You're the problem. Get out.
Right. Yeah. Then they're sitting there blaming Trump for it. It's like he wasn't in office but 4 years. You've had your whole life to work on this.
Right. He hasn't been in office for 4 years, 9 months.
Yeah.
And look at what he's been doing. Look at how good things are now. How many positive things he's been doing.
Right.
And speaking of positive things, there's this thing called Blue Sky. It's so liberals got very mad about Twitter. Twitter's got too much free speech, and we don't have our little hive mind going. So we're going to create something that's an alternative to that called Blue Sky. And I wasn't going to talk about this yet. Oh yeah, this is the one. So he's on Blue Sky right now, watching it happen. Every single government agency went on Blue Sky last week and started trolling the liberals with videos. And it was hilarious. And the media savvy that this administration has is just amazing to me. I mean, it's nothing compared to what we do, Dave, you and I. But
Right.
but they got game for sure.
Oh
And
yeah.
then,
They troll so well. It's great.
oh, it's amazing. And then I wanted to end up this top section with the violent left, and we're going to play a video for you. And I want to know what would have happened if this video would have played when Obama was president. You got it?
Yes. Let's see if she works. The new system works.
They're going to pause it there. That's basically the same thing over and over again. But they got this kid who's probably, I'd give him like 11 years old.
Right.
Give him a knife, give him a piñata doll that looks like Donald Trump and have him stab it. And then he gets praised from whoever this parent is over here, or whoever he's with at the end of it. That is just psychotic programming you're doing to kids. What do you think is going to happen to this kid when he gets older? And the interesting thing I heard was it seems like non-violent liberals or moderate liberals can't wait until a violent liberal does the thing that they don't want to talk about. If that's your attitude, if you're just like, well, I can't wait till somebody does this, you're just as bad as they are. And please do some introspection about that, because these are actual human beings that you're going after. And it's not just Trump. It's a lot of people. You're targeting them. You're treating them like animals, like they're not human, because that's what the programming has been the last 10 years. Calling people fascists, threats to democracy, threats to this, threats to that. You dehumanize first, and then it's easy for people to go after you.
Right. Yeah, and then the kid, they're training him to be violent.
Yeah, absolutely.
The guy who shot Charlie Kirk, he didn't become that way overnight.
No.
This was years and years of this manipulation and the left telling how bad everything is.
Right.
And,
they believe it.
yeah.
And you're coming after my fundamental rights. You're trying to kill us. I mean, you hear that with the trans community all the time. And, when you find out what their fundamental rights are, they want to have free health care and free health care to do their transition, the ongoing medication, which is hundreds of thousands of dollars over several years.
Yeah.
It's not a right if I have to work for it and pay for it for you. That's not a right.
Far from, yeah.
I have a right to privacy. I have a right to free speech. I have a right to own a weapon. It doesn't cost you a thing for me to have these rights. But ongoing health care, that's something I have to work for if you're going to be provided for that. That's not a right. That's a privilege or a gift. And that's what they akin to killing them is because you're not giving me the health care I want. It's craziness.
Yeah, they're confusing rights with entitlements.
Yes, exactly. Okay, let's move on to Duluth news, shall we?
We shall try.
Hermantown. I'm going to have you speak more about this, but Hermantown now delays the controversial data center permit. So we've talked about this before, but there's a data center being proposed in Hermantown. There's been several county and city personnel that are in government that have signed non-disclosure agreements. They signed the non-disclosure agreement to say that they can't even disclose that they signed the non-disclosure agreement. Have been doing this for over a year. They've been putting everything in place while property is being built up or bought up. And then one day this week, they had a several-hour meeting where people came and claimed their case of why this shouldn't happen. And then they voted unanimously with very little conversation after the public speaking was over to just approve the rezoning.
Yeah.
Then they had another meeting, and this was to actually permit the data center to be built, I believe. And this is what got delayed, right?
Yeah, you're correct. And basically, so the Tuesday night's meeting came on, and one of the guys out from the council said, "Yeah, we have to table this till November because the environmental agency from Minnesota is requesting something that is because the people from Hermantown figured out that they didn't go through the proper channels, so they called the environmental people, and the environmental people called Hermantown, so they had to delay it. But the technicality of this was the city of Hermantown doesn't have to. They can blow it off. They don't have to approve anything. They can say, "Well, we're not going to consider that." So they have to answer that first within 15 days. They can do that, and then without ever actually doing any environmental work, and then continue on with the project. So it delayed it 15 days.
It's funny to me that because you can't seem to, cut your grass in Duluth without environmental impact. And if they come against it, you can't do it. Is it just a city thing or is it a state thing or what?
This is more of a state thing, but the cities can still basically, all they got to do is write a letter saying, "Yeah, we don't think it's an issue. We're going to go on no matter what you say." So it's a delay tactic that the people figured out, but it's only for 15 days. I mean, they're talking this is an 8 to 10 year project. So delaying it 15 days means basically nothing. So
it's interesting because I've seen signs popping up now all over the place that say, say no to the data center in Hermantown.
Yeah.
And I'm inclined to agree with that just because of the process they've been doing to get this through. It's been closed door, underhanded, secretive. You've got government officials signing non-disclosure agreements, which fundamentally seems wrong to me. You shouldn't be able to do that when you're conducting city business, unless you're upfront about it. Now, if they'd have come forward and said the following company, because that shouldn't be secret either, has come forward and is proposing to build a data center. I have to sign a non-disclosure agreement to find out specifics of it, but we're going to do that and then come back and answer questions because people have questions too. How big is this going to be? How much water is it going to need? How much electricity are you going to be sucking down? What happens to the citizens that live around that when there isn't enough electricity or the grid can't handle it?
Right.
What's the noise? Did I say noise? I might have said noise because I'm bothered by noise. But there's questions that are legitimate questions that the community should be able to ask. And, most of the time I'm like, these signs pop up to say no, even if they don't even know what the problems are yet. They just don't want it. I don't agree with that, but I do agree with answering questions from people that have to live around the area, that not have to, have chosen to live here for a certain reason, have legitimate questions. Those questions should have answers. And if the answers don't come up right, the community should be able to say, no, you can't have this, because this is massive. This is a massive structure. You have 300,000 square foot building with four 50-foot tall buildings that are 300,000 square feet. That's not a small footprint. That isn't a small little thing. And it is impacting the environment. So we need answers to those questions, and it should not go forward. So what do you think, Dave? We've talked about this, but tell us what we can do about this right now as citizens around here. If you live in Hermantown.
If you're basically, the city council already proved that they're going to ignore you. So your only option is to get rid of the city council. You start signing petitions, you do a recall vote, you find people in the community that won't sign an NDA that will, and then vote these people out of office. You know, the mayor and all the city council. You just have to get rid of them. That's your only option.
Yep.
Vote them out of office. Find new people that you agree with. Get rid of them. I mean, it works with the Duluth City Council too. Duluth is a mess. We're going to get into that later today, later in the show, but it's a mess. The only way you can stop them is to remove them from office.
Not just at the city level either. St. Louis County's got some commissioners on here that need to go as well. And it's not because I'm opposed to data centers in principle. I'm opposed to the process they have chosen to go down, which is backdoor, closed door, underhanded. It seems really suspicious, and it should not ever happen this way. And unless you get rid of the people that do this, it'll keep happening to you. Like you just said, Dave, they have no problem just ignoring people after they talked for 3 hours. They didn't even discuss it. They were like, okay, screw it, we're done.
Yep.
So
they made up their minds before anyone had their say. They had their say, and they still ignored them.
Right.
And your city council, your mayor are supposed to represent the people.
Right.
And then they didn't answer any of the questions. They just sat there and listened and looked at them. Get rid of them. That's
another thing you can do. If you're a Duluth citizen, go to city council meeting, ask the city councilors to give an opinion on each one on this situation. And you're going to have some that seem to have maybe a conflict of interest.
Right.
Maybe they work for a place that's going to benefit greatly from a data center to show up. And find out what they think. And if they're okay with the process that has taken place here, I think you vote them out too. I don't think anybody that approved this or went forward with this, signed a non-disclosure without telling people, should be gone. They should be voted out as soon as possible and get some people in that will actually represent us, the citizens of the state.
Yeah, and it's got to be now and before later, because once they approve the permit, that's pretty much done. It's hard to stop it.
Yep.
You have to get it done now.
Right. All right. I want to go on, unless you have something else with that. I want to talk about something in a similar vein, but it has to do with Duluth, which is Lester Park Golf Course. So the Duluth commissioners were going on to talk about the property ownership, and they're divided, so they just delayed it. So you might as well get rid of that.
Yeah.
So they're divided over it, and they won't do it. So they're just gonna delay the research on this. This is classic Duluth. We're just going to keep delay until the opportunity is completely gone. That land's going to cost us money instead of making us money. I'll tell you what, that project that was put forward to Duluth is such a great plan to give us a hotel, housing, golfing, which is not just private golfing. It is open to the public is their plan. They don't need anything from the city. They're asking for access to trails and potable water. That's it. They'll take care of the rest. This is the developer who talked to us. Now, obviously, if you're going to make this deal, you better put that stuff in writing. And also, if you're going to sell this land, there has to be some clause. If you don't make so much progress in so much time, that land will revert back to the city.
Yep.
If they do this smartly, they can do a good plan and get a really good environment out there to have a bookend out to the East End, because East End is a desert when it comes to businesses. They got a few here or there, but it's mostly housing, it's beautiful that way. Look at me, I'm big. It's beautiful that way, but it's not very conducive to getting tax revenue into the city. So what we need to do is get some businesses out there. This is a perfect plan. You're going to let this pass you by. This guy has already been doing this for over 10 or 11 years, trying to get this plan in place. Sooner or later, he's just not going to do it anymore. He's not going to be able to line up the investors. He's going to get too old to do it. He's already in his 60s now. I mean, when talking to the guy, he's like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. I'm getting older, and I've already done this several times in other places. It would be nice to do it in Duluth. He grew up here, but he's not going to kill himself to get this He's already done this RFP several times, and then it gets to the city councilor or gets to the planning commission and it just dies. So I hope they go forward with it. It would really be nice to do, and with the right provisions in place to protect the people of Duluth, protect our land, so we don't have another Duluth Central High School debacle that you just did.
Yep.
Where the city went in. I was talking to Asher, one of the city councilor candidates that was willing to do an interview with us, talking to him. He goes, yeah, they went up there and they graded all land and did all this plumbing. We spent money on that. So don't let the Duluth City Council tell you that we didn't spend any money on it. We did. And right now, what do we have to show for it? A graded land. We have the potential for it, but we don't have a project, and it's not getting us any tax revenue right now.
Right. Yeah, and could have been sold to Edison schools. It could have used it as a school, and they've been making money at it. Now it's nothing.
If I remember correctly, they said they offered more than the asking price for that land, for the buildings. Yep. And the Duluth, I don't know if it was the city council or if it was the Department of Education, said no, because they didn't want to show a successful school up there after they closed Central.
Right.
It boggles your mind how they think sometimes around here.
Well, it goes back to Walz too. He doesn't want to fund charter schools. He doesn't want to give any money to Catholic schools. He can't indoctrinate kids unless they're at a public school. So nothing unless it's a public school, he's against it. So he's part of the problem too. So
and the public schools are doing so well since he took over.
Right.
But it must be COVID-19 or, the tungsten affair or something. Something is the reason that we're not educating our students, 9/11. Right. Pearl Harbor. Something happened.
Pearl Harbor, something.
Moving on to the next thing. So we have this right to repair thing coming up. It's an ordinance that the people of the city can vote on, and I've seen a lot of support for it. Now the unions are getting behind it, and it doesn't surprise me that the unions are getting behind it, because part of the provision is that you have to use licensed people to do the repairs. So just to give a background to people who may not know what this is, there's an effort here to make it so that if somebody's renting from a landlord, and they give a problem, and they use the most basic things, a clogged sink, a lights out, I'm serious. They actually are telling us that in the commercials. These are the things that are concerning them. A slow sink. If you tell your landlord and they don't either fix it or have somebody scheduled to fix it within 2 weeks, you can then go out and hire out someplace to come and fix it. And then you can take that amount off your next month's lease, up to $500 or half the lease amount. And I'm not sure which is greater, or, is it max of $500, or if you're only paying $750, you can only take half of your rent, or if it's the greater of the two. I don't know that for sure. So to renters, and there's 40% of the housing in Duluth is rentals, it's probably going to pass, because they're allowed to vote just like landowners are. So they're going to vote this in.
Right.
And it's so for the one thing is, yes, if you're renting from a place, the landlord should be responsive. And there are plenty of landlords that aren't responsive, but I don't know who they are, because I haven't rented in a long time. I've never rented in Duluth. If it is that big of a problem, we have existing laws. If the existing laws aren't working, shouldn't we be trying to work on the existing laws first before we start adding new ordinances on top of the existing laws? So we have Duluth ordinances, we have state ordinances, we have federal ordinances. The other thing is you may be opening yourself up for a lawsuit. So if you do a repair, or somebody does a repair on that house that the landlord didn't approve and you thought it was to fix something, you might be opened up for them suing you if something goes wrong with it. Say the contractor doesn't do a great job and there's black mold that comes in the house. You're liable for that. You can go after the contractor, but could be the contractor doesn't exist anymore because he went out of business or he was just a fly-by-night place. So you are opening yourself up to some possible problems. The other problem with it is you might be putting out people that are just renting out one house because they had it in the family. They want to make a little extra money, so they're opening it up. They'll get out of the business. They can't afford this kind of thing. Who can afford it are the big businesses. So they'll get a monopoly on all the businesses or all the rentals in the city, and then they'll pop up the leases. They'll cover themselves. They're not paying for stuff. You will.
Right. Well, you said there was 40% of the houses are renters.
That's what I've heard. I can't confirm that, or I haven't confirmed it yet, but that's what I've heard a couple places.
So that would explain the housing shortage.
Exactly.
Because you can't, there's going to be the new first-time home buyers are going to be competing against corporations and people that can afford 3 or 4 houses.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be competing against, and you're going to lose every time.
Well, there's the housing shortage, as in I can't find a house to buy, which is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
There's a housing shortage, as I can't find a place to live because there's nothing available. That doesn't matter how many rentals we have in the city, assuming that they're renting them all out and they're not just holding on to them and empty. So, but you're right. I mean, it would be nice if we had less. I don't like that ratio. 60-40 seems way too. I would have told you 10% were rentals.
Yeah, I would. That would seem a little bit more legitimate.
And I understand we're a college town. We've got 2 major universities here, plus the other college. So we do have a lot of people that come here and need to rent around UMD. They are building structures for that, though. So there should be plenty of housing for that.
Yeah, but you could do it by district too. I mean, there's ways around it, but when 40% of them are owned by corporations, then there's
not corporations, but so there's a lot of people that own 2 or 3 properties, right? They started building it. They people live locally, maybe. I'm guessing they're not a problem and they're not going to face any problems, but you're always going to get that one renter that's like, I'm going to take advantage of this. Mm-hmm. Every month I've got something that needs to get fixed. And my buddy is a licensed contractor in general purpose. So every month it comes up to $500 of stuff he has to do. I mean, there is a potential for fraud here. When we already have laws in place, if those laws aren't working, the first thing should be going to those laws and seeing what has to be done with those first before you start trying to figure out new ones, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely.
And we got a thing on here that says Duluth has more rentals than rental permits. That's interesting. So you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I found this in the Star Tribune, and so basically, people are renting their, turning their houses or their rentals into Airbnbs versus, like monthly rentals, like to college students or something like that. So but they're not taking out permits. So you could actually consider it theft because they need to declare it as a commercial property, which has a different discount than residential property as far as property taxes go. Okay. So Duluth has Minnesota has another fraud problem. Can you believe that?
You want me to do my face?
Yeah.
In Minnesota, fraud?
Yeah,
right. It isn't so.
So, there's another part of our problem. Duluth's problem is,
Yeah.
you know, there's rules. There's rules that nobody's following, and
Right.
there's nobody in the state that's even watching it.
Right.
So
Um,
another part of the housing problem. Well, we're back to that again.
right. Correct. All right. One last thing I want to just point out, because this drives me insane.
Yeah.
Here's my little rant. What boils my potato is 6th Avenue East is finally opened up. I know the governor didn't show up to open it up, but 6th Avenue East is a main drag. And it always has been for the last 10 years. It's been almost undrivable. It's so badly built. It was potholes, concrete was raised up. The asphalt was messy. It was bad and it needed to get resurfaced. So when they started working on it this year, I was like, yes, it's going to be great because it's 2 lanes up, 2 lanes down. And if you're not from Duluth, you've got the lake, you've got the city, and then you've got the hill. And to get up the hill, there's only there are many ways to get up the hill, but there's a few main drags. You got Wasabi Avenue, you got 21st Avenue East, there's places to go, but 6th Avenue East was one of the main places to go up the hill, then to get down to the hospital. 2 lanes up, 2 lanes down. So they opened it up last week. I was like, on Monday, I was like, I gotta go down 6th Avenue East. They've now made it into a 1 lane each way with a turn lane in the middle, with concrete barriers and grass in the concrete to make it even more costly than what it was before. Now, you may say, yes, well, people have to turn left, so they blocked up traffic. Well, people could always go into the right lane and go around them or wait.
Right.
Now they're going to go into a turn lane. Sure, that 1 lane is still going to be open just like it was before, but nobody can go up that 2nd lane now.
Right.
And it seems like to me, people in the city, the planners, the people that do this, go out of their way to find a way to be annoying when it comes to building up roads. And it just drives me insane. So I don't mean to sound like a negative Nelly here, but every time they do a rebuild of a road, it makes it less traffic can get through it. I'm surprised, to be honest with you, that there isn't a roundabout there, because they have some fetish about roundabouts in this city too.
Right.
But
so
God.
they take a 4-lane road, and now it's going to be a busy 4-lane road, and now it's going to be a dead stopped, traffic jammed 2-lane road.
Right. With
It's
lights.
ridiculous.
I mean, it's not like it's a straight. There are lights that are involved with this too. So I don't know if you've driven in the city very much. For people who don't drive in the city, people do not like to accelerate very fast in the city. So I made a joke once that you live in the city, you don't know how fast your car can go from 0 to 30 because you'll never reach 30. Right. I mean, you just troll along at 5, 10, very slowly getting up to speed. Maybe 2 miles, you're up to the speed. So 6th Avenue East is open. Hooray. We'll see how it is. I'll go down it and, sometimes during busy times and see how it's doing. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is the best thing possible, but it just seems like more concrete, more grass, more turn lanes, and less flow.
Right. Yeah. And, where's our governor opening it up for us?
Yeah. He's busy.
Yeah. I mean, I heard he was coming up next week to open the new Blotnick Bridge that they haven't started building. But
before they demolish it. Yeah, just to take credit for it.
Just to take credit for it, because it was, just like, he's got to take credit for everything because it was his money that, wait, no, it wasn't. It's not his money.
Oh, maybe it was him in that backhoe that was demolishing the White House.
Yeah, maybe that's what it was. Yeah.
Maybe that's it. All right. We'll move on to Minnesota news now. I found this interesting. The Aquatennial and Holidazzle parades, which were downtown Minneapolis for years. When I used to live down there, you'd go to them. They're a big sight. The Holidazzle was all lights. It was a big parade in downtown Minneapolis. It brought in millions of people. I don't know, millions, hundreds of thousands of people. Will no longer be held in Minneapolis because, well, they just can't do it. The Minneapolis City Council just doesn't think it's an important thing to do. The real reason is you could just close that. I don't know what you're looking at.
It's going into ads. That's the
Yeah.
problem with this, is it goes into ads all the time.
Right. Well, it's the fact that it's unsafe downtown Minneapolis, and people don't feel safe going down there. They don't want to go down for a parade. They don't know what's going to happen. And I think the Duluth City Council has realized it's not worth their time because they're just not bringing in people anymore. Or either that, or they think it's too family friendly and they don't want to have that kind of a parade in the city.
Right. It's actually family friendly.
Right. It is something that's very easy and it's very innocent. It's just a little parade. There isn't a social message to it. There isn't a bunch of people running around naked, but can't have that. So,
well, I mean, Holidazzle has all those lights. You know what kind of climate change problems you're having with that?
Yeah. Well, don't tell them about Bentleyville, because that's coming real soon. I've been running through that. It's set up now and ready to roll. Let's see. Talk about proposed sixth grade social studies curriculum. We've talked about this before. There's this new curriculum they came up with, and it's going to feature gay liberation and settler colonialism. My God.
Colonialism, yeah.
My tongue's not quite awake yet. It's so I encourage you, if you're watching this, go read this. Go read this article and go study this a little bit. I don't want to go into the details of it. I was reading some of the things. It was the health initiative too. It didn't talk about health at all. It just talked about, apparently, your sexuality to grade school kids is the most important thing to teach them. Whereas when I went to school, we never thought about it.
Right. We thought about reading and writing and math.
Yeah, I was really good at multiplication tables when I was in grade school, and I was pretty proud of that.
Yep.
And we had a talent show, and I played the guitar. I was pretty proud about that. I never once thought, hey, which one of these chicks should I nail after the talent show when I'm a fifth grader?
Should I be a boy or a girl today?
Right. I wish I had that soundbite from Kindergarten Cop. Boys have a penis, girls have a vagina. We'll move on. The 75th person has been charged in the $300 million fraud case. And here's the thing that caught me on this article. 25% of Somalia's GDP comes from remittance money being sent from the United States to Somalia. So they're taking our money, they're stealing it from us, and they're sending it back to Somalia. And 25% of their GDP comes from us. And you know where the most concentration of Somalians are? Minnesota.
Yep.
That $300 million they've taken has gone to their economy away from us. So I know people think that, it's really heartfelt. You don't have to play this. You're being very kind and you're helping people out. They're taking advantage of your kindness. They are taking your money away from you where you could be spending it on your family or helping people in your community. I don't know anybody that lives in Somalia. And even if I did have family back there, they're not the people you should be taking care of with our tax dollars. My view.
Well, if you start thinking about the fraud in Minnesota, and I heard numbers almost $2 billion. There's 3 million people living, or 5 million people living in Minnesota.
Yeah.
So 2 billion divided by 5 million, that's $4,000 you're paying for absolutely nothing, that you're getting absolutely no value out of. And then reconsider about only half of the people in Minnesota are actually paying taxes.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
So
so
that makes it $8,000 per person that you could put back in your own pocket if Minnesota would actually do fraud.
Right. Also understand that if you work for the government, you don't actually pay into the tax base.
Right.
Although it looks like you're paying taxes, that money that came from it was from the tax base to pay you. It's just that they give you this much money, and then they take a little bit back. It's not that you're actually adding to it. If it was only government workers in the United States, we'd run out of money in day one. That's just the way it is.
Yep.
I'm going to go on the next one. I'll share this image. I'm going to talk about something called the Wren Collective. And if you look, third on the left, Bloody Mary is on it from Minneapolis, Minnesota. This is a group of people that are in get together and make sure that their crazy laws get passed throughout the nation. And Mary is on it. And so are a bunch of other people from your local, your usual suspects, right? California, Texas, I'm kind of surprised.
Right.
But, this is why we're having a problem, because they're coordinating between these states to have their crazy policies pushed down upon us, the citizens. So if you want to, I will be putting out a link to this, and you should check it out. Wren Collective, and our Minneapolis AG is on it. Next, I want to talk about the Minnesota Supreme Court ruling in favor of a transgender athlete in the USA powerlifting dispute. So the House Republican floor leader, Harry Niska, said that the decision has sweeping implications that could effectively eliminate girls' sports in Minnesota unless we provide some statutory clarification. And like you wrote here, Dave, this is against Trump's orders. This is complete contradiction to what Trump said, and they will face ramifications for this from the federal government as far as funding goes.
Yeah, this isn't exactly an accurate headline, because what the Supreme Court of Minnesota did was they pushed it back down to the appellate court. By doing that, it basically made, by actually not saying anything, they said that the transgender athlete could perform in the powerlifting meet.
Right. They de facto approve it because they didn't deny it.
Correct. Yep. So, they weren't, strong enough to make a decision. Couldn't figure out the difference between a man and a female. So,
well, they were all Democrats, right? They were
Right.
appointed by all Democratic governors. And if you think about the situation we had just last year or 2 years ago, we had a trifecta and we had the entire Supreme Court, all Democrats. So if you're complaining about how the state is run, what we're having with all this massive fraud, start taking a look at who you're voting and stop voting for, if you're doing it, stop voting for somebody just because they represent a party, and start looking into the candidates themselves and what they're saying.
Right. So, so now you've got Moron Ellison ignoring the federal law.
Yep.
And then just recently we find him, he found him at the airport. I don't know where he was going, but
yeah.
all the, so, all the military people the veterans are coming off, and he's just standing there not clapping. Everyone in the building is, and he's not. And
yeah. If you read his excuse for not clapping, it's really, really weak. I was busy. I didn't know what was going on. Friend came in from out of town. My suit was at the other cleaners. Every excuse you can think of.
Yeah.
He's clearly just doesn't want to, which if you don't want to, you don't have to, but I think they should know about it. I think it should show your character. And he's running for a third term.
Yeah. So he shouldn't even, that should almost eliminate him there, because he's a moron.
If that was the case, think of how many people wouldn't be elected.
Right.
And then the next story is, showdown over Trump-backed rule that could transform voter registration. See, the federal government's trying to do this hideous thing, which is try to make it so that people believe that when somebody gets voted into office, they were actually voted in legally by citizens of this country. You can't have that. Ellison
Right.
can't have that. He doesn't want that. And if they push this through, he doesn't have a snowball's chance in hell of getting elected again, I don't think. Neither does Tim Walz. And Amy Klobuchar's got to be breaking a sweat too.
Right.
So, yeah, all Ellison does since he's been elected since Trump got elected is fight Trump. He doesn't do anything for us in the state of Minnesota. He doesn't look up for us unless you're one of his backers.
Yeah.
He's one of the worst AGs we ever had. So I hope he gets voted out too. Him and Walz, I'd love to see them just lose completely. Please make that happen, voters.
Yeah, because Ellison should be throwing Bloody Mary from Hennepin for not following the state laws and throwing her in jail because she's not
Right.
following this. But no, he just seems to allow anything.
I'll allow it.
Yeah.
Last story on Minnesota news is the civil rights complaint filed against Minneapolis schools over segregated classes. So we're just come full circle now with segregated classes.
Yep.
One section of the course is open to all Black male students, and the other one's open to all Black female students. So what about the Asian students, and the white students, and Hispanic students, Ojibwe students? I guess they don't count, right?
Where's our Duluth News Tribune endorsed Elise Klozowski complaining that there's no Indians in there?
Or Hispanics. I mean, those are the two groups that she represents.
Yeah, that's the two. Yeah, that's who she represents. Why isn't she throwing a fit over this?
Well, maybe she will when she gets back in session. Who knows? But yeah, I haven't heard anything.
Right.
It's ridiculous that they have to do this lawsuit. I thought we got through this like in the 60s. They kind of sorted all that stuff out. And remember, back in the 60s when LBJ then sent in National Guard troops to protect the students going into those classes, that's when it was okay for the president to send in troops. It comes and goes. Really, it does.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're a Democrat, then it's okay. If you're not, then.
Right. All right. Let's go down to national news. There are U.S. states, Michigan being one, that wants to ban VPNs. They do it under the guise of protecting people against pornography. So once again, pornography is their club they use to beat down your rights. So people don't know what a VPN is. Virtual private network. When you get on a virtual private network, it's very hard for them to trace back where you're from or where your original IP address is. So when you go onto your computer from your house, they know where your location is. I am from Duluth, Minnesota. That's where I'm going onto the VPN. They can even backtrace to who you are. You go to a VPN, you could be coming in looks like you're coming in from Florida, Texas, Europe, China. I mean, you can be in a VPN that goes just about anywhere. They don't like that because they can't control you then. Right. So what they're trying to do is they want to be able to have you always be identifiable when you're on your computer and know exactly where you are when you did things. And VPNs are stopping that. So they don't want that. So what they do is they say, let's take pornography and make that our club. So don't you just want to make the kids safe? Don't you want to make it so that they won't accidentally see pornography? You got to put these things in place. And people will agree with that because, you put it in with the sugar, but what you're getting is a lot of government interference and censorship and monitoring. You have no Fourth Amendment rights with that.
And luckily, this is happening in Michigan, which is a major blue state, and the GOP guys were trying to shove this through. Mm-hmm. So more than likely, it won't happen. But you can see that there's doesn't matter what party there's some bad people out there that are just trying to take away your rights and force their morals down your throat.
Well, they make it in the guise of morals, but correct. It really is so they can get control.
Yeah. They can't beat a VPN, so they're going to eliminate VPNs, basically.
Right, exactly. And this is what Great Britain wants to do because they have such harsh laws now, but people get around them by going to the VPNs. Well, they can't have that. You can't get around my law, my God. We got to put this thing in place to make sure we're tracking. That's what digital ID is. That's what the age verification stuff comes down to. Knowing who you are, where you are, what you're doing. Tracking, censorship, punishment. Trust me. Kind of going back to Trump's backed rule to transform voter registration. Texas has found thousands of illegal aliens registered to vote on the state voter rolls. Thousands. You know why this can happen? Because just like what they did in Minnesota to make sure that this can happen, you give them IDs, and you can't distinguish in Minnesota, you can't distinguish an ID of an illegal alien from a citizen of this country in this state.
Right.
You can't tell the difference. If you look at one, there's no markings on it. They used to at least have, when you weren't a citizen, you had some marking that said you're not a citizen. They don't even have that anymore. But that was for legal immigrants. Now you even have illegal immigrants, aliens, getting these IDs for the sole purpose of it. If we did actually pass a voter ID law, they can still get around it because you will have an ID, and you don't know until after the voting's over whether or not it was legal or not. And once it's in, it's too late.
Right.
Because you don't know how they voted. You can assume how they voted, but you don't know how they voted.
Yeah, and we're back to we talked about this last week about the federal government suing Minnesota to get the voter rolls.
Right.
And they don't want the voter rolls released because they know how many, I don't know, hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands, who knows how many illegal immigrants voted in the last elections.
Right.
Which is keeping them in office. So they don't want people auditing our books, and they don't want voter ID.
Correct.
It tells you everything you need to know about Minnesota.
Right. But then they wrap it up as in, we're just protecting people. You're not.
Yeah.
You're not protecting people. All it is who voted. You don't know who they voted for. You just know that they voted. What is the problem with that? And it's not like if they were saying, I want to know all the people that voted in the Republican primary. As Republicans, you had to sign up to do that. Or Democrats, you did. I don't think you had to the last time, but you have had to do that in the past. But for a general election, just the fact that you voted doesn't say who you voted for. It doesn't matter even your history. If you tell them who you're voting for, you don't know for a fact. They can't get that information. So as a privacy issue, I don't see this as being a problem.
No,
I have to go there and sign. I'm signing to the state. Why does the state have that information? The federal government can't have it.
It all boils down to when you're talking about a Democrat, you're talking about control and power. That's
True.
all this is really boils down to. They want their power. They want their control. Soon as U.S. aid got wiped out through Doge, they lost millions of dollars. So
yes, they did.
Which they lost control. So that's all they care about.
Right.
So.
And when we've talked about this before too, when you ask, why aren't they fixing these problems? Why aren't they fixing the problems with illegal aliens? And why aren't they fixing the problems with the roads and healthcare and everything else? Well, they are fixing a problem. It's just not your problem. Their problem is, I need to get elected next time. That's their only problem that some of these guys want to fix. And they're fixing it effectively by keeping everybody agitated. That's this No Kings protest. Make sure people are always agitated and angry and simmered so that you can activate them as fast as possible. But they're solving the problem. The problem is, I need to get voted again next. I need to get into office again because that's where I make my real money, not from my payroll, but from the power and the perks that come along with it. All right. Ooh, DeSantis wants to end Florida property taxes. It's gaining momentum. People are actually talking about it. I've been talking about this for 3 years. Not that I'm a pioneer in it. It's not like I'm the first person. We got to get past some of these things.
Yeah.
But DeSantis wants to end property taxes. And the first thing that will happen when you tell somebody that is, you can't do that. How are we going to fund the schools? How are we going to fund the roads? Well, there's a plan for that. You have to do something. You have to do it with other kind of taxes, or God forbid, cut your taxes a little bit, cut the
Right.
programs that you're providing. But you know why they like the property taxes the most? You're tied to it. You can't escape property taxes. And they can increase your property value and the percentage they take both in the same year. You're getting double dipped on their taxes.
Right.
And if you don't pay, you lose your property. So as a tax collector, if I'm the one in charge of collecting taxes, I love property taxes. I know how much I'm going to get. I know next year they're not going down. I'm going to get at least that amount or more.
Right.
And then I can always tweak the rate up to a certain percentage. And if everything else fails, I can just make sure your property value keeps raising up. I'll always have that money coming. That's why they love property taxes so much.
Yeah, just reevaluate your property if they can't raise your taxes.
Right.
Oh yeah, but your property, we swept the road. That means your house went up $100,000.
Right. Well, that's an awful nice attachment you put on your house. That's going to cost you a lot over the lifetime of your house.
Yeah.
So I have no incentive to increase the value of my house. In fact, you're incentivized to let your house turn into garbage so that the taxes go down because your property value goes down.
Right.
It's encouraging sloth and disaster as opposed to encouraging growth and building up. It's like the opposite effect of what you really would want, but it solves their problem. They want money to pay for their programs.
Right. And that's why you need building permits if you want to, add a bathroom or add a deck or something like that.
So they know you did it.
One, they can raise your property tax because they know you did it. They're protecting their property.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And and two is they have no liability for any construction that's done to your house. So why are they doing it? They just want to know if you're doing it to control the value of their property, basically. So they can collect more money on it.
Yeah, it's great for them. They get the permit fees and they get the extra taxes that they're going to charge you for doing it.
Yeah, because your value just went up. So
yeah. We're going to talk about the next thing, National Farm Security Action Plan. The Trump administration declared the National Farm Security Action Plan, which bans future Chinese Communist Party-linked farmland purchases, aims to reclaim existing land with executive actions, and imposes a fine of up to 25% of the land value. This is what's called an administration looking out for the people that live in the country they represent.
Yep.
And it's so refreshing for me to see this. This is a first time in my lifetime, and I lived through Reagan. The first time in my lifetime, I felt like the president really is looking out for us first. It's beautiful.
Yeah, because China's been buying up property near our military bases.
Well, there's lots of problems with it. Besides the fact that they control our food, yes, they're also buying next to our military bases.
Yeah, it's definitely a national security item to protect your farmland.
Right. And we'll move on to the last thing here, which is, I couldn't believe this when I read it. New York NYPD has agreed to stay away from a Brooklyn neighborhood. There's a 2-block radius where the police will not go into that neighborhood during the daylight hours of certain times for anything less than a murder, basically. They're just going to let them self-police that area because it's so dangerous and so violent. So I think, well, great. It's less space for them to have to traffic. We don't have to send in utilities to that area. We don't have to send in sewer systems. Not doing any road maintenance. We're certainly not going to be plowing those roads.
Right.
So it's a police-free zone. It's also a public utilities-free zone then, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, if you don't want the police showing up, then
good luck getting a firefighter show up or anybody else showing up in that neighborhood. If you're not going to let the police in, I'm not going in the neighborhood.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't go in. I'd go into Gaza before I would go into that neighborhood.
And suddenly we can just tell the police you're not welcome here in this area. And that's okay. You're okay with that.
They're getting just more ridiculous every time,
Right. All right. Ready for international news?
It's running along, but we'll make it.
In a massive blow to the European deep state, the U.S. has gotten out of the UN carbon tax. It stopped it in its tracks. So the UN was going to tax countries like the United States because, by God, we're emitting carbon into the atmosphere and you can't do that. So what this is them figuring out a way to guilt people into paying them money so they just have tax money.
Yep.
You're paying for it. It's a detriment to your life. It's a detriment to the country. It's a detriment to long-term sustainability, and it's not proven to affect the environment. In fact, if you want to have a greenhouse and you want your plants to grow more lush, you put more carbon into it.
Correct.
The ridiculous fact that they're trying to, and they manipulated so many people to believe that this is the problem. It's not the problem. When a volcano blows, any kind of your little carbon offset stuff you've done is just gone in a day,
Right.
in a minute. So apparently, Rubio, I believe, is involved with this. Trump administration is being able to get out of that carbon tax BS. And why the UN has any say in anything that we do in this country is beyond me.
Yeah, that's WEF, WHO, UN. They've lived past their useful life. It's time to get rid of them.
Yep. I think they should declare them as enemy of the state.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I mean, when you're talking about the WHO.
Right. Because they want a world order.
Oh,
they
absolutely.
Want to be able to control the world.
Yeah. The W.
Because, yeah. Through made up medical emergencies.
Right. And COVID-19 should have showed you this. They wanted to put concentration camps in place for people who dared go against what they wanted. They were willing to take their kids away to put those in the camps. Look what happened in Australia. Yep. They were trying to set it up in there. I don't think they ever implemented it, but they were setting up those camps.
No, they actually got implemented. I've seen videos of people sitting on the porches of their internment camps.
Yeah.
Because they had to be separated from other people too. So
I saw a great thing where it was a line for 3 windows, and they had those, how they had those little circles where you could stand on it, and then 6 feet back, they'd have the next circle.
Yeah.
But the circles were like literally shoulder to shoulder. So although you were 6 feet away from the person in front of you, you were like right next to the person next to you. That's the kind of sense that was being done during COVID-19. I hope if people ever are watching this in the future because they're trying to do some archival on people who lived through it, it was insanity. I have a little thing to talk about at the very end about it because it was mind-numbingly stupid, the way they implemented it and the way people followed it.
Right.
All right, we'll get to that. Hold on. Got a couple more news stories here. Not many. Britain finally made a good decision. So they've been going hog wild about going to people's houses because they made a mean tweet and they'd send 6 patrolmen to their house. So recently they had this Father Ted writer, Graham Lynham. This is the guy I believe they picked up at the airport. And because he made a tweet in the United States. And they didn't like it. So they went to the airport and they arrested him. Well, he's been just kind of silently let go and dropped the charges. And now they've come out and said they will no longer investigate controversial non-crime hate incidents. So if there's a hate incident where you're going around beating somebody up, yeah they're going to investigate that, which they should. But they're not going to do ones that are just apparently made people feel bad. Thank God. That's Britain.
That's Britain. Yeah, I don't think it's safe to go over there anymore.
Not for now. But, and I'm going to skip over one of these things and go to the Spanish. A Spanish priest is facing years in prison for a comment that offended Muslims. So Father Ballister, 61-year-old Spanish Catholic priest, appeared in court facing a possible 3-year sentence for his criticism of radical jihadism, having been accused of Islamophobia. It's a 2017 post.
Yep.
So 8 years ago, responding to the question, Islam does not allow for dialogue. You either believe or you are an infidel who must be subdued one way or another. That's going to get him possibly 3 years. So Spain, probably not the place you want to go because they are being crazy about their censorship. But England is hopefully making baby steps back into normality.
Right. Yeah, you can only go so far and then realize how ridiculous it is.
Right.
And then you have to, at some point, you have to fix it. So it's, how about we not go down that path?
Right. The problem is that, I mean, there have been so many examples, we've been talking about them, where it's like,
Right.
surely this will wake them up. And then next week it's worse. That woman that said she was born and bred in the place in Scotland, or
Right.
it was either Ireland or Scotland, and then she immediately knew she was going to be brought up in charge, and they filed complaints against her for saying, I was born and bred here. My God.
Yeah, you said something factual.
Right. She didn't follow it up with some kind of diatribe. And even that, you know what? We are lucky here in the United States where we haven't gotten that. I know they were trying to do this for the last 4 years under Biden. Remember the Ministry of Truth? They were trying to really hard to get this in place, but it's a lot harder to get it here in the United States, apparently, than it is in England.
Yeah. Well, thank God we had this No Kings rally to stop
It's
our
true.
authoritarian free
I
speech
know.
people.
Right. Last article is the Church of England splits. And I can't tell you how much I've seen. I am very pleased that this happened because I'm looking at what the Church of England is doing lately, and I can't believe that all the members of it are okay with it. So having a split shows that there's people that are just rejecting what the Church of England is doing. And I think, to be honest, it's King Charles. He's a problem. He's a weak guy, and he is ineffectual. He doesn't believe in the church to begin with, as far as I can tell. And so they lost 40 million people out of the Church of England. And now I read, and this isn't part of the article, is Charles is going to be sitting down for communion, I believe, with the Pope. And I don't know if you remember, King Henry VIII was the one who separated and created the Church of England because they didn't want to be with the Pope. They didn't want to be with the Catholic Church. Now, he did it so he could get a divorce, and he was frustrated about not getting a divorce. All right, not necessarily the best reasons, but still. And I know there's a big brouhaha about that, but now they're splitting, and it makes sense. I can see that.
Yeah, because, well, the problem is you have a super liberal Pope who puts a Muslim prayer room in the Vatican.
Right.
With a king that's just as bad. So what are they going to actually accomplish?
Right.
So
and
it's a
we
bad
say
combination.
that, and we say that saying, it's not the prayer room itself. That's a different religion in the Vatican.
Yep.
And I wouldn't expect that in Mecca they have a statue of the Virgin Mary. Right. That's not what I would expect there. It's not that it's a bad thing. It just doesn't mix with that religion. So it's not like we don't like Muslims. It's that has no place in the Vatican or in a Catholic church. Right? Correct. It just doesn't. All right. Moving on to health and fitness. And we talked about this a little earlier. I just wanted to talk about the COVID-19 recap. And I want to remind people what it was like here. No vaccination clinical trials were completed. It was released to the public as experimental. The long-term side effects were completely unknown because of the point 1 and 2. You were being pressured to take this or you would lose your job, and many people did, and they got kicked out of the military. Congress exempted themselves from the mandates, and they exempted the post office from the mandates. The funniest thing is the post office is probably the one that has the most contact with everybody in the United States because they're delivering the mail, literally touching all the mail.
Yeah.
The FDA requested to hide any data about this for 75 years. NIH grants legal immunity from liability for COVID manufacturers. So you can't, even if it turns out that this killed people, no liability.
Which it did.
Yes. People who are vaxxed continue to become infected with COVID. I just talked to a guy last week. He's had it 6 times. I don't know if he got vaccinated or not vaccinated, but he got the shot. I hesitate to call it vaccination because it's a complete redefinition of what that means. But and one of the best things was no symptom. That was a symptom.
Right.
I felt like I was living in a Twilight Zone episode. And I'm trying to think, am I crazy? You had to really assess every once in a while for this. Like I was talking about the 6 feet thing. I'd see people out riding their bikes on Maui with masks on. You're like 3,000 miles away from land. I mean, honest to God, you want fresh air, you're going to go there. I mean, you may get VOG, but it was insanity. The more rules they came out with, the worse it got. And it seemed like it was a test to find out how compliant people would be. And I'm sad to say many people were very compliant with this.
And still are.
And still are. So people doing your research about COVID, there were some of us that really questioned what was going on and never fell for it, never participated, which we are now known for. And
right.
That may be the problem the next time around. I don't know.
And that's something that we've said on this show, 1,000 times is do your research.
Yes.
Just because someone says it doesn't mean it means it's true. Research it. You post all of our backup material that when we're talking about something, when we form an opinion or we're telling you something, it's because we've verified it. We've looked into it to make sure it was something,
Right.
Same
but
with
that
this COVID.
Doesn't mean you shouldn't do it too. Don't take our word for it. Take your own brain for it.
Yeah. You have information out there. Don't ask AI because AI is very biased too.
Right.
Go, start researching these things, find out for yourself if it's what's accurate, what's true.
Right. And you know what? This brings me to another point about COVID thing. They were actively going after people doing their own research. They were saying you can't do your own research. You have to trust the science. Trusting science doesn't make any sense because science doesn't trust itself. The whole point of science is to question everything.
Correct.
If you don't trust something, go verify it. You may spurn a lot of time and it may be something that's just useless for you to do. But if that's what you're questioning, do the research and question it and then figure out if that's the right thing or not. Telling people not to investigate something, that just seems very corrupt to me. I don't know about you.
It seems like a Monty Python sketch.
It does.
But that brings us right back to the Minnesota Supreme Court on the boy in the girls weightlifting thing.
Yeah.
Well, now what about science? Science says that males are naturally stronger at that age. So now we don't trust science?
We don't question science.
Not for 75 years.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Science is good now. Science is good, not good in this situation. I don't know.
Yeah. I trust the scientific method, but the scientific method says don't trust everything. Do your own research.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to end with the word of the day. Health and fitness. Yeah. Get out and try to do a walk today. Do something better than you did yesterday. If you can't walk, do some exercises sitting down. If you can't do that, do deep breathing and meditate and get away from the computer for a little while, or, read a book, learn a new language, mental exercise as well. So that's my advice is always try to keep growing no matter what. You're never going to get to a point where you can't grow anymore until you die.
Yeah.
Word of the day. What's the word of the day, Dave?
We can pronounce this one. This one is fascism.
Fascism. A populist political philosophy, and this is from the Webster Dictionary.
Yep.
Movement or regime, such as that of a fasciti, that exalts nation and often race above the individual, that is associated with a centralized autocratic government headed by a dictatorial leader, and is characterized by severe economic and social regimentation and by forcible suppression of opposition. And people that are complaining that the Donald Trump administration is fascist, or if you're conservative, you're fascist, please go and study this definition and understand that you are completely wrong. So let's break this down a little bit.
Yep.
Piece by piece. It's exalts nation and often race above the individual. Socialists exalt nation, especially race, above the individual. They do it a little different, where you may think of Nazis as white supremacists. They are anti-white supremacists. They elevate every race except for white people lately, but it can happen in any different way. But this is one of the religions, is racism. Everything has to be about what you are, what you look like.
What group they can put you in.
Right. Where conservatives value individual achievement. That's what you watch a John Wayne movie that kind of personifies that old style way that you did things. You took care of yourself. You tried to handle things yourself. It didn't always work out for you, but you did it yourself. This is your life. You do what you're going to do. It's not a big social agreement with everybody else. And then associated with a centralized autocratic government. Well, what's an autocrat? What's autocratic? You may ask. So there's a couple definitions of it, but they're similar. Controlled by one leader who has total power and does not allow anyone else to make decisions. So if you're going to look at the Trump administration, look at all the delegation he does. You know, Pete Hegseth is a great example. He gets direction from Trump. He knows what Trump wants, but he agrees with it. And then he does the work. It's not Trump making the decisions.
Right.
And he's following the rules. When a court comes and challenges one of his presidential orders, he doesn't just destroy the court. He goes to the next court and appeals it. He's following the process. See, I don't know how you can say this is an autocratic leader when he does something like that.
Yeah, especially when the government's shut down. If he was the actual leader, then the government would never shut down.
Right. As a dictator, it doesn't happen.
Right.
He just says, you don't do it. There's an alternate definition of autocratic, demanding that people obey completely without asking or caring about anyone else's opinions. Well, we're kind of seeing that in Hermantown recently.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean they're autocratic. We talked about the COVID shot. We talk about DEI policies. We talk about taxing us to death. That's not something the Trump administration is doing. That's something that the socialists are doing. Let's see. Characterized by severe economic and social regimentation. But if you look at this, and I actually did some AI work on this because I wanted to do a little more deeper research without having to spend hours on it. Fascists do not favor a completely market-free system, but instead seek to create controlled economy that serves the interests of the state. They often adopt a corporatist model where industries and labor groups are integrated into the state-controlled system. The goal is to suppress class conflict and direct the economy towards national goals. Does that sound familiar? Does that sound like a Democratic Party?
Oh, that sounds exactly like the Minnesota Democratic Party.
Right. Where the Trump administration, his economic policies are more in line with neoliberalism, capitalism, emphasizing tax cuts for businesses, deregulation, and more market-driven approach. He's not fundamentally altering the capitalist structure of the U.S. or moving towards any kind of state control of the economy. His American First economic policies include withdrawing from trade agreements like the Trans-Pacific Partnership, renegotiating NAFTA. He also encouraged domestic manufacturing job creation through tax incentive. So that is completely opposite of what fascism would do. Fascists want the government to control everything. He is completely opposite of that. So that's another contradiction in that term. Forcible suppression of opposition. Well, didn't we just talk about a Nose Kings rally on Saturday? Didn't we just say, if he was a fascist leader, if he was a dictatorial leader, he would have used every opportunity there to crush every one of those groups that came up, but he didn't. He made a sly joke, and he also said something like, "King, I'm not a king. I work my ass off for this country." I love
Right.
it. Love this guy.
You could make a weak argument for January 6th protesters
Right.
entering where Biden would have been therefore a fascist
Yeah.
or an autocrat
Right.
because he put everybody in jail even though they were just walking through the Capitol.
Yes. Or they were in the area at the time. People got arrested for that.
Correct.
So I just wanted to point out, remember, the Democrats tried to remove Trump from the ballot in many states. They wanted to charge him with insurrection. That's why they were going after this whole January 6th as an insurrection thing, because they wanted to tie him to that. And if you're found guilty of insurrection or inciting insurrection, you can't run for president. They made up and changed a bunch of laws to make sure that they could charge him with something to give him a felony conviction. They raided his house. And they also anointed a candidate that has 0 primary wins in Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
So you want to talk about dictatorial, you're going to look at the Democratic Party and what they did to Trump. And the reason he's going so hard this time is because you tried to kill him. Not the Democrats. I'm not blaming the Democrats, but he was shot. He was abused. They did lawfare against him. And at 80 years old, I think this time that he was trying to be Mr. Nice Guy the first administration, first 4 years. Now he's doing things the way he knows he only has 4 years left. He needs to get things done, and that's how he's working. And I absolutely love it.
That's the way it's got to be.
Yep.
It would, in certain respects, it'd be nice to him to be an autocrat or a dictator because, the government shut down. It's wasting time. The Democrats are completely against everything he does. Therefore, we're slowing the whole process down. If he was a dictator, boom, this would get done. Boom, this would get done. Instead of waiting for consensus and people voting, Senate and Congress voting on things.
Yeah.
It'd have been done already.
But I would never support that myself.
No.
Because no matter how good you think it would be to get your guy in, somebody else is going to come in and it's going to be horrible. You've got to stick to the rules. You got to have the procedure. There's checks and balances in place. You got to follow those checks and balances.
Correct. Absolutely.
Okay.
But if we could just get the Democrats to want to make America better, life would be so much easier. But
wouldn't it be nice if it seemed like they wanted to do things for the American people as opposed to themselves and whoever constituents they have that are giving them money?
Yeah. And to me, looking at Minnesota, it's like they want control and power, and they're going to buy votes through their legislation.
It's an old saying, we will burn this place to the ground to rule over it. That's what it seems like with the Democrats in this state.
Yep.
All right. Well, on that cheerful note, I'm glad people stuck with us. Thanks for watching. If you like what you see, please like and subscribe, hit the bell so you get notifications. We've been doing a few more videos this last couple of weeks, and I'm planning on doing some other smaller ones. We're trying to get the Duluth candidates for city council to come on. If you have any influence, to ask them to come on to the show. I have a set list of questions that I've asked each one of them. I think they're reasonable questions, and you can see one of the candidates, Asher, came on the show on Tuesday. We went through it. We agree on some stuff, we disagree on others, but the show isn't to argue with him or debate him or make him try to see my way. It's to find out what he thinks, because I think people in Duluth need to know what the candidates think. After coming out of that, I have a lot of respect for him. I think he's got some really good ideas, and I think he actually would be a very good city councilor. I don't know about the other ones necessarily. We do have some questions getting answered by other candidates, so we'll talk about those. But if you have a candidate, if you know of a candidate and they watch it, please have them come on so we can just get a conversation going.
Right.
All right. Well, we'll end it here. Appreciate you guys watching. Have a great week. Stay warm. It's not getting better.
It's not getting any better.
All right. And we'll see y'all next week. Thanks for watching.